too stupid. Yeah. So I bought it, and with the same textile, I was looking for other women who could sing it. Yeah, and nobody could sing it. They all said, no, I don't know, no, I don't know. And then I found one who said, yes, that it's true. Yes, my sister can sing this, everything. Yeah. And so we made a recording sessions, and I showed them many different designs, and the old woman sang the design songs. Yeah. And I was so lucky because I was in love with that girl, a Shipibo girl, and later we married, and she asked me, oh, may I listen to this? And she listened and laughed and said, do you know what they're talking? And no, of course I didn't understand anything. Now I understand, and I also can laugh about this, because they said, something I asked, okay, could you sing this design? And the old woman said in her language, oh, well, I don't know anything of what to sing now, no, I don't know anything. And her sister, who is more commercially oriented, she said, okay, sing anything. What shall I sing? Yeah, sing some drinking song or something. And then she sings a drinking song that is not in any way connected somehow to the design. Yeah? And I got some 50 songs of designs, and if not my wife would have saved me, for sure I would have published something very spectacular about indigenous song notation and something. Yeah, so I was really lucky in that.
But okay, if we talk about music, it's very important also during the rituals and for Ayahuasqueros. What does music mean to the healers? In what way do they use music? What point does it have?
Well, in fact, music is important in that aspect, and among all those indigenous groups in the Amazon, music in general is very important. And they see music, or they hear music as a method of communication with other people, with other species. For example, there's a story about some true Shipibo people who still live inside the woods and who behave like Shipibo have behaved when they lived in the correct way of life without influence by white and so on. And maybe it's possible that it's true, maybe it's a story, I don't know. And they say that those people, they only sing to each other, they communicate by singing. So singing is seen something like the correct way of communication. It's better than speaking. And with singing they can communicate with other peoples and with the plants and animals and so on. You can't speak to the plants. You can only sing. And speaking is highly suspicious because there is a concept of, they call it bomang, that's something like cursing. So if you do a lot of diets, you will have the ability of bomang. That means that you can say something like, look at those people passing there, look at the girl, she's falling, and the girl will fall. It's like cursing, yeah? And that's very dangerous. So if you use the spoken words for some magical or medical activity, that's considered very suspicious. So you should sing. Singing is a correct way of communicating in that sense.
Not only healers are using ayahuasca any longer, but there are also some therapeutical institutions set up in Peru now helping with people with addiction problems, etc. How has that developed, and how successful is it, if at all?
Yes, well, there's one quite famous clinic. They have a nice homepage. You can find it with Google. It's called Takiwasi.
Takiwasi?
Okay. And it's a clinic set up by a French medical doctor, and who trained in the Amazonian medicine, and he applies this Amazonian medicine on people with drug problems. Mainly cocaine addicts, but also alcohol addicts and people with drug addiction. And they come to this center that's very beautifully made, there's a big garden and so on. And they'll have to stay there for about 8 months usually. And they use those plants, they use purgative plants for vomiting and cleaning. And they use those diets with other plants. They have to diet for 1 week usually. They have to retreat and don't speak with anybody and just take the plant, and they also do sessions with ayahuasca. But it's the whole process. Also they do some therapeutic things, like they work in the garden or they make music or whatever. It's a holistic therapy. And because the French doctor, he has a training as a shaman, so to say, and he really uses this ayahuasca and those plants in the way the Amazonian people use them. He also gives them to the addicts, but beside that, he uses them as to connect people with nature and so on. And it's not a psychiatrist's view. And it is quite successful.
Good.
Yes, I mean, it's about a third of the people get really rid of their addiction, and 1/3 gets mainly rid of it, but maybe still smoking cigarettes or drinking some certain amounts of alcohol or something. And about 1/3 of people do not conclude the treatment and they fall back.
Yeah, but these are much better results than for
it's
all of the programs that we have here in with methadone or in communes or whatever.
Yes, it's quite a good.
Where it's about 20%, and this is. But okay, for the last question, people in the West, quite a lot of people now know what ayahuasca is, what it means, but nobody has ever heard mostly about Shipibo tribe or the other tribes. What do you think? Not we should know. What is the knowledge and the experience of those people, of those tribes, that would be useful for the Westerners to know more so than just their plants and the effects of those plants or potions such as ayahuasca?
Well, I think the most important thing is that ecological understanding. I explained before that animals and trees are also perceived as active beings, conscious beings, and with their own perception of the world, and that's something very different from our world perception, and it has this ecological implication that you can't just run around and kill animals and fell trees and so on, that you're doing great harm to those beings. So, and those beings could take revenge on human beings, for example. That's a strange way of thinking, but it's very, very interesting, and I think it's very important for the Western world to consider this way of thinking, just for, in my eyes, a better way of life together with nature.
All right. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.